So I don't know why observers of Tom Brady, want to make this more complicated than it is. Every time he says anything remotely political, and yesterday he was at the White House, so he was saying a few things, making a few jokes that were political. And I'm telling you, half the blue check mark said he was taking a shot at his old friend Donald Trump, and the other half said he was taking a shot at the current president, sleepy Joe Biden. I watched it and then I watched it again because I thought I might have missed something. I think it was essentially it was neither, but I can explain to you and everybody listening. I can explain to you the motive, the reason Brady was at the White House yesterday, the reason he was giggling and smiling with Joe Biden when he blew off Donald Trump just 2 years ago. And even though he used to like Trump, used to hang with him, play golf with him, say nice things about him, told me a few times, that he liked Donald Trump and respected him. But I don't think everybody in his household likes Donald Trump. The answer, the explanation is Tom Brady is like most married men. He is henpecked. He is whipped. He does what he has to do to keep Giselle happy. Giselle doesn't like Donald Trump. She's obviously a very liberal, typical liberal woman, very wealthy, preaches environmentalism, does not obviously walk the walk, tells you to limit your carbon footprint, and then jets to Brazil on a private jet, and then talks about how we have to save the rainforest, and then gets, as we've seen, travels around in an SUV and private jets and big fast boats. But I'm sure she's a very nice woman, just a typical limousine liberal. Anyway, she hated Trump. I think Brady's mother hated Trump too. So Brady, like all of us, you want a happy wife and a happy life, and you don't want to piss her off. So he blew off Donald Trump and didn't have to listen to his wife or his mother or his sisters or anyone else in his circle of very wealthy liberal friends and family members. So he just stayed out of it. I mean, he literally told us on the air that he couldn't talk about politics because his wife won't let him. He said that.
He said that?
Air. Yes.
That's
I mean, he said, no, I'm no more politics. My wife told me I can't do that. So
wow.
He essentially admitted it. Now Biden's in office. Obviously, we know how all that went, and Brady didn't endorse him or vote for him or say he voted for him or anything like that. But he goes back to the White House because he knows there's nothing, controversial. He's not going to get any grief for going there and yucking it up with Sleepy Joe. His wife doesn't mind. His mother doesn't mind. His wealthy neighbors in Miami or in Tampa, they don't mind because they probably all, except for, I think in Miami, I think one of his neighbors is Ivanka and Jared Kushner.
Of course.
And although they probably not, I think they may have issues with Donald Trump now too. But anyway, he goes to the White House and he yucks it up with Joe Biden because he knows nobody in his family, none of his wealthy friends are going to mind that. That's cool. They're okay with that. I mean, they support Joe Biden. They hate Donald Trump, and what Tom Brady did yesterday created no waves. Do you think today, Max Kellerman, Stephen A. Smith, do you think today the Around the Horn people, do you think today, Jamel Hill, wherever she is, probably somewhere getting a job, a high-paying job today, wherever she is, do you think she's going to mind? Do you think all the beautiful people in Tom Brady's life are going to mind that he went to the White House and yucked it up with the president of the United States, a guy who could be the most polarizing president in our lifetimes? Doesn't matter because Giselle doesn't hate him, because Tom's mom doesn't hate him.
Right. He's chosen the socially acceptable path. And
yes.
So he's out of the fire. Yes.
And you know what he is? He's a pleaser. We've seen it for decades. He's a pleaser. He does not want to fight. He wants to live this Tony Robbins existence, this power of positive thinking. He doesn't want negative waves in his life, which is why he didn't want to talk about Trump or about politics or about about Alex Guerrero. There was things he just didn't want to talk about on the radio, and he still doesn't. I mean, he goes on with LeBron and swears and has a good time, but he's not going to dive into any real divisive issues, which is what just being in Trump's presence meant to him. That meant being involved in a very polarizing, divisive world. And
For Tom,
yes, he doesn't feel that way about going to see Biden because people in his life, they don't hate Biden.
right.
I mean, they should, but they don't. So he goes there and makes these jokes, which I think were jokes about Biden. Lots of people, probably the majority of people, thought they were jokes at Donald Trump's expense or at the expense of Trump supporters. We're going to play them. You tell me. I haven't even asked you this yet. I have not asked you, Carano, yet. If you think you got two choices, are these jokes aimed at the 45th president or the 46th president? By the way, the 46th president was presented with a Tampa Bay Bucks jersey yesterday with the number 46 on it, and he seemed confused, which is typical. But
I mean, he always seems confused. Yes,
he did not seem to. He said, "Wow, 46. That's a weird number. We'll play that too." And you tell me. This is not really important, but you tell me if you think Joe Biden understood why the jersey was number 46. I'm telling you right now, Carano, he did not make the connection. He does not understand why they gave him number 46
he does not.
On his Bucks jersey with his name on it. But anyway,
this is
Sorry about that.
There are two jokes, both of them pretty lame, but both of them about the current president. But were they slaps at Biden? Were they slaps at Trump? Let's listen to the whole speech was like 2.5 minutes long, and it was typical Brady, just cliches and platitudes and everything's wonderful. But these two jokes kind of surprised me because they were political in nature, and I think there was a chance that the people, Biden supporters, Biden probably didn't even get the jokes, but the Biden supporters in the room were going to go, "Ooh, that's a little that's over the line." Let's not forget, you make a joke about election results and perhaps questioning the election results, you are in danger of being deplatformed. If you're just a regular person, Brady probably doesn't care about that. But if you make this joke on Twitter, on Facebook, there's a chance that you could get disappeared by the big tech tyrants, right? I mean, that's what he did. Made a joke about the election results. Wasn't particularly funny, but I'm just going to ask you, Carano, and anybody else listening, anyone commenting here on Facebook or YouTube, do you think this is a shot at Trump or a shot at Biden? Go ahead and play it, Matt.
It didn't look great there. At one point, we were 7-5, struggling a little bit, as the president alluded to. But we found our rhythm. We got on a roll. Not a lot of people, think that we could have won. And in fact, I think about 40% of the people still don't think we won.
I understand that.
You understand that, Mr. President?
I understand that.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, obviously, it's mildly amusing. Like 40% still don't think we've won. I guess he's alluding to 40% of Trump supporters don't think, but for good reason, don't think Biden won. So is that a shot at the Trump supporters, at Trump, or at Biden?
So I think that works both ways. I think he's actually taking care of both parties. I hate to not make a definitive decision here, but I think that joke works for both, and that's probably why someone wrote it for him to tell it.
What I was going to say, that's a perfect Brady joke. Then I mean, mildly amusing, mildly mischievous, and not really insulting to anybody. I mean, I think you could take it to the next step and say these crazy, paranoid, conspiracy nuts don't think you won, Mr. President. But he didn't do that. So he didn't really take a shot. I mean, if there are people, and there are millions who don't think the election was on the level for plenty of reasons, but that doesn't make them crazy. That there were millions of Democrats who don't think Trump won legitimately in 2016. You could question that election. That's okay. You can talk about Russians and all, and that's okay. But if you question 2020, when a guy that can't get 27 people at a rally had 81 million votes, if you question that result, then you're a conspiracy nut who must be deplatformed. Brady didn't really go all in, but that was joke number one. Okay, let's play joke number two, and you tell me, is this a shot at Trump or is this a shot at Biden?
It's nice for me to be back here. We had a game in Chicago where I forgot what down it was. I lost track of one down in 21 years of playing, and they started calling me Sleepy Tom. Why would they do that to me?
Yeah, that's Biden in the background saying, "I don't know." No, that's a shot at Biden, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, I know Trump gave him that nickname, but he gave it to him for good reason.
Sure.
I guess I always wonder this: like, who wrote those jokes? Was that who wrote that speech? It's only, like I said, 2 or 3 minutes long. Not a lot of effort went into it. I know Brady doesn't want to go, get edgy and doesn't really want to be controversial. So he kind of, it was mild. It was mild, and it was bipartisan. How's that? Because all the Massachusetts people. I don't know if Liz Warren was there. Marty Walsh was there taking pictures with Brady, and then I assume all the Tampa people were there. And it's a collegial atmosphere. Everyone's happy, getting along. It's a celebration. It's not, you're not there to take shots at the last president. So I don't think there was much more of that. To me, I'll tell you what the most interesting thing is, and I'm sure the media didn't really cover it because, again, it's Joe Biden. You don't want to make him uncomfortable. You don't want to throw him off his game. The daily challenge for the Washington Press Corps is to prop up this sad shell of a man and help him through the day. I mean, that's help him to get from the 1 or 2 events that he does to the lid at 3:00, and where he can go, whatever, get some ice cream or watch TV, whatever he does. Their job each day when they show up is to help him make it through the day. So they don't want it to be too tough on him. But I will give you a good question, Carano, that I don't think was asked of Biden, of Psaki, of anybody. Is Tom Brady vaccinated?
That's a great question.
Is Tom Brady vaccinated? To me, that would be the biggest news if you could get a yes or a no. The Bucs are one of the teams that has not reached the threshold. They want every team to get to 85% vaccinated. I'm not sure why that number. We know, Biden promised to get 70% of the American public vaccinated by July 4th. Came up way short. That's why they are threatening to, go door to door, hold people down and give them the jab. But the NFL, like most leagues or sports, is disappointed in the number of guys who've been vaccinated because, they want to, they want to get in line. They want to do what the Biden regime demands and keep everybody happy. I certainly understand why young, athletic, fit guys don't want to get vaccinated because they don't feel they're vulnerable to the disease, because they're not, or at least not to the serious effects of the disease. But he turned around, Biden, and said, guys, you're going to get vaccinated. He said this to the Bucs players, and Brady was there. You tell me, who could have a bigger impact and on just young people in general than Tom Brady doing some kind of PSA, some kind of saying, let's do this, everybody get vaccinated. I did. I don't think you're going to see that. I could be wrong. I don't think you're going to see it, and I'll tell you why. Simple reason. He's not vaccinated, and he has no intention of getting vaccinated. He never wore a mask. You know why? He doesn't think he's vulnerable. He thinks because of his lifestyle, because he lives such a healthy life, because of his diet, exercise, stretching, everything else, and because he's kind of a strange guy who thinks he has superpowers. I mean, he literally says he can't get hurt. He knows how to avoid injury, period. He knows how to avoid another ACL tear or a concussion. And you know what? So far, he's right. At least he's had one ACL. I know he has an MCL thing going on now, but it didn't stop him from winning a Super Bowl. He thinks he knows how to avoid things that trip up, that infect other people, mere mortals. I think the whole message, if Brady were to talk and Brady were to be honest, the whole message, which the Biden regime is desperately trying to get through to the American public, would blow up in their face if Brady were ever honest. If Brady sat down with, I don't know who's sat down with
Phil
Malik
Sims
Andrews,
questioned
the
it.
star reporter from ESPN, or Maria Taylor, the star anchor, and were honest, he would say, "Hey, I'm healthy. I'm fit. I feel like I have the immunities." He used to talk about like his electrolytes or his vitamins that they sell at the TB12 store, and how they're the best, and the best protein. We have the best. I take the best protein. I have the best electrolytes. Now they have a new product that's called Sleep, TB12 Sleep, I think, just Sleep. And it's probably, Benadryl. It's probably just like any NyQuil, whatever. It's just to help you sleep. It probably costs, $39.95, and certain people will buy it because Brady has that kind of effect on some people, where they want to have the best sleep medication, and Tom Brady endorsed it. I shouldn't say I guarantee. I strongly believe that Brady is convinced that he can't get the coronavirus, and if they ever got him to be honest, it would be devastating for the effort to get through to young, fit, healthy people that they must get vaccinated, because if you don't, you make the Biden regime look bad. That's it. I mean, it's not because you get infected or sick or die. They just want to make the Biden regime look good by getting 70% of the public or more vaccinated. That's why you get this nonsense about Fox News, being the reason, or Tucker Carlson, Laura Ingraham being the reason. It's the numbers. The really alarmingly low numbers are among blacks, among Hispanics. They're not getting vaccinated. I mean, you talk about like the state of Mississippi has, 33, 34% vaccinated. You think that's because of Laura Ingraham? I know they want to blame, social media influencers, on Facebook or on Fox News, and that ain't it.
No, they're saying, it's 12 people responsible for 60% of the population of some states not getting vaccinated. That's ridiculous. I mean, when the overwhelming, corporate news sources are out there just saying, get vaccinated, get vaccinated. So it's not that they're getting, way more inundated with people telling them to get vaccinated. But this is what Biden turned, and said, your stadium has become a lifeline for families in Tampa Bay this spring, administering nearly 200,000 vaccine shots, and you all who don't have a shot, get one. Okay, get one.
And he looked at the players. Can you see him? You look at the video.
No, I'm looking at the quote,
because Brady was there, and I know they don't want to put him on the spot. Nobody wants to really hear him speak from the heart, because when he speaks from the heart, he can be a weirdo. Let's be honest. I mean, he has some bizarre thoughts, like he knows how to avoid. I swear to God, he thinks he knows the secret to beating old age. He knows how to stay young. He thinks he's, Benjamin Button. He really believes in these things. And I'll tell you, it's hard to blame him, because, he's 44, just won a Super Bowl. I mean, he's by far the oldest guy in the league, the oldest player in the league, by far the oldest, buck. Everything. He has defied the odds, and it's a chicken and egg thing. Do you defy the odds, and then you believe you know how to beat aging, beat injury, beat illness? That somewhere along the lines, he became 100% convinced that he's different, that he can do these things that no one else could do. And I'll bet you one of those things is to avoid, to build up your old natural immunities and fend off any coronavirus that's affecting other people. If Brady were to get infected, it would be a wild story, because first of all, we would find out then that he didn't get vaccinated and didn't want to get vaccinated. Secondly, it would seem to be he would seem vulnerable for the first time in I don't know how long, since Bernard Paul blew out his ACL in 2008.
So do you think it's highly probable that everybody would cover that up if he got COVID? Because
It's a
it
good
hurts
question.
everybody. It hurts the NFL, hurts the the administration, the corporate media. It hurts him, his brand, hurts everybody if he has COVID.
They were asked, Jen Psaki was asked, why don't they get Trump to do a PSA? Why don't they give Trump more credit? Why don't they make it seem like we're all in this together? I mean, Trump developed the vaccine. Obviously, Trump spearheaded Operation Warp Speed. While he was doing it, Biden and Harris said, I'm not taking a vaccine. If it's a Trump vaccine, they're the ones that spread the misinformation, the doubts. They were the biggest anti-vaxxers out there. Once Biden took office, it became, his mission to get everyone vaccinated. She was asked why they don't bring in Trump, and she said, well, I don't think he needs an embroidered invitation to help us out here.
Well, he's off social media. Where would he tell anybody?
That's a good question. I mean, maybe Biden could call, his allies, his foot soldiers, like Zuckerberg and Dorsey, call his pals and say, could you give Trump his account back just for, till we get everyone vaccinated? I mean, yesterday when this Brady Biden thing was going on, would have been a great time for Trump to have his Twitter account back. Now, granted, I said much of the tweets were nonsense. He tweeted like a 15-year-old boy much of the time. But wouldn't you have liked to have heard his interpretation of the Brady Biden exchanges yesterday? And Brady, how about Brady just going to the White House for a change when he didn't go when Trump was there, when he refused to go, just be part of this non-political, non-partisan event, happy event, celebration. The Patriots went. Brady didn't go because Brady's wife didn't want him to go, and he wants to keep his wife happy. That's why. I mean, it is a slap in the face to Trump. I mean, this is his old friend. Trump did a lot for Brady when Brady was young and single, and flew him around on a private jet, brought him to the Miss USA pageant, played golf at the finest courses. Brady decided, I don't think he'll publicly blast Trump, but he decided he could no longer be friends because it upset people in his family. I'm pretty sure that's the truth. And that's what we saw yesterday. A guy who felt free to do what he wanted with his teammates and knew there would be no real backlash. There would be no real, fallout politically, because he doesn't want any part of that. But we will see if anyone in Tampa, I mean, they start practicing today, I believe. That's how they get the whole team together.
Right.
Just before they took the field, they flew up to DC. I know everyone loves to do that. It's a good time. They have a good, bonding experience. But when they're accessible to the media, like I think beginning today, maybe tomorrow, soon, someone has to ask, someone in Tampa has to say, Tom, are you vaccinated? And if Brady says none of your business, that's fine, because it's not necessarily everyone's business. It's his decision, my body, my choice. But if he's going to be honest and says no, that is a huge story. Brady says, I don't need it, because they right now, I mean, the people not getting vaccinated are choosing to not. They don't. Everyone has the info. Everyone has the access. If you're not vaccinated, you've already made your decision. Don't you agree that
yes,
everyone who's not vaccinated has decided they don't want to be vaccinated, and something really compelling has to come along to convince them otherwise, right?
Yeah, exactly right.
I mean, all the PSAs or whatever, all the pleas from Biden or Psaki or whoever, is ain't going to make any difference now. These are people who've already decided they don't want it. They're not doing it. Now, you could force them by saying you can't play, or you have to play with a mask on, or you can't fly on the plane until you get vaccinated. You could do that, have that kind of mandate. But if they were looking for guys to just make public pleas to people to get, I mean, your first thought is Trump, because he's Trump, and there are lots of Trump supporters that aren't vaccinated. Not necessarily the Black and Hispanic and people in Mississippi, but there are people in wherever, Middle America, Trumpkins, who aren't vaccinated because they say screw that, they don't want to play along. I mean, Trump would have some effect, but Brady or someone like that, young, athletic, he's not that young, but maybe other NFL players, other LeBron. Has LeBron done anything like? He must be vaccinated, because he's, he does what the Biden regime wants, and he seems like the type who would do a PSA for vaccination, but I haven't seen one. Maybe it'll come along. But anyway, the wasn't a. I think what Brady does when he goes public is he drives the Brady haters nuts, and there are a lot of them. There are millions of them that just hate the sight of him. I have to admit, if I didn't have an experience, have a history with him where he was good to me, we got along good and all that, got along well. If I was just somebody in wherever in Denver and LA, I would hate him too. I mean, he's just so good, so perfect. I had this discussion with a friend of mine yesterday. There's everyone, there's no one who gets everything, right? Nobody has everything. There's always something, and it was. Somebody said it about Doug Flutie. Doug Flutie used to seem like he had it all. He was a star, good looking, great athlete, had money, fame, all that. And he has an autistic son. And someone wrote about that one time and said, this is proof that nobody gets everything. It seems like and the same you could say about Boomer Esiason's son. Gunner's got cystic fibrosis. Jim Kelly lost a son. These athletes, these quarterbacks, generally seem like they get it all, but they don't, because nobody gets it all. Brady might be the one. I'm not sure what the behind the scenes issue problem is in the Brady household. There's probably something. But
well, yeah, I mean, of course, yeah. Everybody has troubles in their in their life, of course. LeBron won't say whether he's vaccinated or not. He says it's a personal private matter. He won't talk about it. By the way, so who knows? Who knows what LeBron's doing? But actually, I think if he were vaccinated, he'd probably say that he were.
It's a good point. That's a good point. That means he's not vaccinated. And probably. I'm telling you, he's like Brady in that he thinks he's 10 feet tall and bulletproof and just not susceptible to things that mere mortals are susceptible to. And he knows that even if he gets the virus, he'll probably be fine. So he's like, you're not sticking anything into me. I'll bet you he's not had it, doesn't want it, but won't admit it because he's, a big fan of the regime of the Biden-Harris team. So and of China. He's a big fan of China. He likes concentration camps, slave labor, forced sterilizations. Big fan of all that. So I'm not surprised he's a big supporter of the vaccine. Nor am I surprised that it's do you do it. I'm not going to do it. Good for thee, not for me. That kind of thing, because that's the kind of hypocrite he is. We'll see. It was good to see. I don't want to spend a lot of time on it. I know you don't either. Good to see a likable, humble, grateful superstar win the NBA title last night. Giannis and the Bucks won. I was rooting for the Bucks just because you got to like Giannis Antetokounmpo, and you got to like Pat Connaughton, local guy. It was good to see. I'm glad the Bucks won, and Giannis was great. He was humble. He was emotional. He had a chance to eventually get to free agency, go to a super team. He had no interest. He stayed in Milwaukee, signed an extension. He likes Milwaukee, even in the winter. God bless him. He just seems like the real deal. He had a great speech in the middle of the series, one of the media days, talking about living in the moment, and he just seems like a grateful, humble superstar. Everything the detestable LeBron James is not. And by the way, the same week that Giannis won the title, LeBron's movie Space Jam 2 got the worst reviews of any movie since I don't know what, Howard the Duck. Just got terrible reviews. You're going to have to see it.
I'm not going to watch that. Are you going to?
Come on, you're the Quantum Leap guy. You're supposed to see all these.
We have one great rule, which is it has to be at least a year in the past. So I've got at least a year before I have to see it. It's too soon.
Okay, I would never see it. No interest, but I mean, I don't. We should get. I'll do it. I'll maybe for tomorrow get some of the reviews because it's just getting destroyed, which is a great thing to see because LeBron is just a ungrateful, just detestable, self-absorbed a-hole. Love to see the movie flop. I'm sure Michael Jordan is enjoying watching the sequel to Space Jam 20 years, whatever it is, 30 years later.
Yeah,
is it 30 years later. Why don't you do the original Space Jam for Quantum Week? I'm sure.
So it's random. Our weeks are random. So if we hit it and it's in the top 10, I'm sure we will.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, we'll
We
see.
have all these rules, Jerry.
I see. But all right, that is our sports segment of the day. Congratulations to the Milwaukee Bucks and the fans in Milwaukee. I don't know if you saw it, but there were like 70,000 people outside the arena. Jeff Van Gundy, the color guy, who's still good. He's good. He says, "Boy, Dr. Fauci must be upset at us. Look at the crowd outside. Look at that super spreader event. We should get to Fauci. I want to get to Fauci, but we got to do Bezos too, because Bezos. Let's do. Do you want to do Bezos or Fauci?
How about we do Shea and then we can go to Fauci? That was a good segue.
All right, let me tell you about Shea, and then we're going to get to flip-flop Fauci and the wonderful Rand Paul, who did not leave a speck of meat on Dr. Fauci's bones yesterday, and it was glorious. But first, let me tell you about Shea. There is nothing better, nothing I enjoy more than watching an arrogant, elitist person who never gets called out, never gets criticized, lives his life in a bubble, surrounded by fawning, slobbering media people and colleagues and other bureaucrats. Dr. Fauci has spent much of his 50 years in the federal government on a throne, getting rose petals thrown at his feet by the media, by other federal government employees. He's made a fortune. He's 80 years old. He should have been forced to retire 15, 20 years ago. He's legally couldn't deliver your mail. Legally, he couldn't be the dog catcher in your town, but he can still be the highest paid bureaucrat and the most influential public health official. But every once in a while, he is forced to go before the Senate. And when he is, the great Rand Paul just goes right at him, exposes him. And if you haven't seen it, yesterday was just glorious because Rand Paul has the truth on his side. Rand Paul knows. And this is one of the most glaring examples of media bias. I would call it media corruption. As we know, our mainstream media is completely corrupt. They don't care about news. They don't care about the truth. They're protecting their guys. I will bet you this video did not appear, at least not in full, on any of like the evening news shows, or certainly CNN is probably suppressing it. I'm just going to guess, but it's starting to get the attention, this story, of people in the mainstream media, which is not good for flip-flop Fauci. I'm going to predict right here, Carano, he's not long for this world. I'm not saying he's going to die, but Biden and Harris will kick him down the stairs in a heartbeat if it serves their purposes, and it will. At some point, this coronavirus thing is not going perfectly for them anymore. It's not going well. We know the Delta variant is spreading. We know these Texas these fools,
freedom riders,
lawmakers are spreading the virus all over DC right now. There's gonna be a day where they need a scapegoat, and it's gonna be the little garden gnome, flip-flop Fauci. But yesterday, and all you need to know is Fauci's NIH sent money, taxpayers' money, to Wuhan to fund this gain-of-function research. Period. There's no getting around it. Fauci is lying. Rand Paul has the truth. Rand Paul is a smart guy. He is a doctor. He knows what he's talking about. Fauci's lying his ass off. Even some people on his team, and we'll get to the Washington Post guy, are now admitting it. But think of the scandal we're talking about. If he weren't one of the chosen people and the media wanted to expose him, think of the scandal. You have the top public health official sending money, grants, taxpayers' money to China to fund research, this gain-of-function research, which theoretically could be used as a bioweapon. So our greatest adversary, our biggest threat in the world stage, China, is doing research to find a way to kill people with a virus. That's what they're doing.
I don't even. So regardless of what it is, why are we sending money anywhere for any other country to do research of
Well,
this? I don't understand even that part.
That's true, but that's almost a distraction.
I guess,
It's insane that we're sending money, even if they were researching, how to make puppies live forever. Even if they were researching something benign, you're saying, wait a second,
Why?
China? We're giving China money to do this. We were through Fauci giving money to China to research a way to strengthen a virus to make it more transmissible among humans, an animal virus to make it kill humans. And Fauci was asked about it once upon a time, and he said it was worth the risk. This research was so important, it was worth the risk that it might escape from the lab and cause a pandemic. He said it was worth it.
Yeah.
Now, how many times do you think, if you're an ABC, NBC, CNN viewer, how many times do you think you've seen or heard that video, that sound? Or even we're told that Fauci said this? I'm going to guess 0. But anyway, yesterday they couldn't avoid it because Rand Paul, he started right off by saying, you understand that lying under oath is a crime, because he knows Fauci's lying, and he knows that he was setting it up, teeing it up so that Fauci would lie again under oath. Now, I understand that Fauci is on the right side of the correct side of this fight, so he will never be charged. He's just like Brennan or Clapper or Comey or Hunter Biden. He's on the right team. He'll never be charged criminally, even though Rand Paul said he's referring him to the Department of Justice, Biden's Department of Justice. There will be no criminal charges ever. Doesn't matter how many are dead. Doesn't matter how negligent or how nefarious Fauci's actions were. He'll never be criminally charged. But God,
sorry, you make a great point. How can you expect them to police themselves? Like, the Justice Department isn't going to police the Biden administration or people under the Biden administration. It's a monopoly there. Like, they're not going to do it.
They're supposed to be. They're supposed to be impartial. They're not.
They're not.
They look out for the deep state. The deep state looks out for its own, and nobody is more of a swamp creature than flip-flop Fauci, guy, the highest paid person in the federal government, guy who's been there 50 years, a guy who will die on the job. He loves the job, the fame, he loves the attention. His goal in life, after he screwed up the HIV, the federal government's handling of HIV, his goal in life was to save the world, and he thought this was his chance, and he took every chance he had to step in front of the cameras and whatever, tell us to mask 3-year-olds or tell us to not go see our families or whatever. He wants to be the man in charge of this effort to control everybody at all times. But that's all falling apart. It's all slipping away from Fauci, and it's great to see. Yesterday, he could, not only did he get exposed by Rand Paul, but he lost it. He lost his cool.
He did.
He sounded like a guilty man. He looked like a guilty. There's a close-up of his hands, and they're shaking like this. He was totally rattled because Rand Paul knows, and he looked around and he said, "Wait, where's my guys? Where's whoever, the media, the Democrats who normally surround him, who circle the wagons? They couldn't help him this time. He was a man alone on an island, and Rand Paul just pummeled him." Let's hear some of it.
It is a crime to lie to Congress. Do you wish to retract your statement of May 11th, where you claimed that the NIH never funded gain-of-function research in Wuhan?
Senator Paul, I have never lied before the Congress, and I do not retract that statement. This paper that you are referring to was judged by qualified staff up and down the chain as not being gain of function. Let me finish.
You take an animal virus and you increase its transmissibility to humans.
Right.
You're saying that's not gain of function?
Yeah, that is correct. And Senator Paul, you do not know what you are talking about.
So I don't get how he's saying that's not gain of function. He's like, you take an animal virus and you make it worse and more transmissible. No, that's not gain of function.
You know where he nailed him? He used the definition that they have from the NIH or the CDC, I believe, or it's the NIH, one or the other. He used their own definition, his own definition, Fauci's own definition, and said, this is gain of function. He knows it is. I guess Fauci feels if he sounds, if he's passionate enough or emphatic enough, maybe convince some people, or some of the people who carry his water will be there to help him. But check this out. And I know you have more Fauci, but this is a guy named Josh Rogan. Do you know who Josh Rogan is? Not to be confused with Joe Rogan.
I don't know Josh Rogan.
Typical left-wing hack reporter. His description in his bio on Twitter is Washington Post columnist, CNN political analyst. So that's about all you need to know. He's got a book called Trump, Xi, and the Battle for the 24th Century. He's got his pronouns, he and him, in his bio. He's got 255,000 followers, but he's typical. He's a Bezos, Washington Post stooge there to serve the Biden regime. He writes this last night, which is not a good sign for Fauci. He writes, "Hey guys, Rand Paul was right. Fauci was wrong. The NIH was funding gain-of-function research in Wuhan, but NIH pretended it didn't meet their gain-of-function definition to avoid the oversight mechanism. Sorry, not sorry, if that doesn't fit your favorite narrative." Again, a CNN and Washington Post guy, an absolute messenger for the deep state, for the regime. This is not this is
Fox
not
News.
Tucker Carlson. This is not even Joe Rogan. This is Josh Rogan, a blue check left-wing hack who says Fauci was right. Rand Paul was right. Fauci is lying, period. And think of what he's lying about. He's not lying about whatever masks on 2-year-olds or, the 3 feet versus 6 feet. He's lying because he sent taxpayer money to Wuhan to help develop the virus that killed 600,000 Americans and 4 million people worldwide. We funded the research that gave us the pandemic. Tell me quickly off the top of your head a bigger scandal than that. And I'll let you include, Hunter Biden or whatever. Watergate, whatever. You name one scandal that's even close to that. I said Andrew Cuomo was the biggest. The Cuomo nursing home scandal was the biggest scandal in American history because he killed 15,000 senior citizens, covered it up, lied about it. That's pretty bad. On this scandal, we're talking 600,000 Americans. We're talking destroying economies around the world, and we paid for it. And even the Washington Post admits it. Not a good day for the Garden Gnome. Dr. Fauci is going to, it's not going to end well for Dr. Fauci. Once a hero in this country, a year ago, was a hero, was an oracle, the media was fawning all over him. I think you're going to see the media is going to distance themselves from him. They're going to keep their distance because they know, that, you don't stand next to the guy who could be the next to get the 2 in the back of the head from Biden Harris because it's coming.
You're the second one?
Do you want to hear? Do you want to play some more Fauci? Let's listen. Sure, let's hear because he sounded so guilty.
This one's a little bit longer, so stop it if you're not interested. But they start to define the gain of function stuff. So here it is.
Read from the NIH
Chair, can I
definition of
answer the
gain of
question?
function. This is your definition that you guys wrote. It says that scientific research that increases the transmissibility among mammals is gain of function. They took animal viruses that only occur in animals and they increased their transmissibility to humans. How you can say that is not gain of function?
It is not.
It's a dance, and you're dancing around this because you're trying to obscure responsibility for 4 million people dying around the world from a pandemic.
And let's send Dr. Fauci.
I have to, well, now you're getting into something. If the point that you are making is that the grant that was funded as a sub-award from EcoHealth to Wuhan created SARS-CoV-2, that's where you are getting. Let me finish.
We don't know.
Well,
we don't
wait
know
a
if
minute.
it did
I
come
can-
from the lab, but all the evidence is pointing that it came from the lab, and there will be responsibility for those who funded the lab, including yourself.
I totally
This committee
resent-
will allow the witness to
I
respond.
totally resent the lie that you are now propagating, Senator, because if you look at the viruses that were used in the experiments, that were given in the annual reports, that were published in the literature, It is molecularly impossible.
No one's saying those
It
viruses
is-
caused it.
it
No
is
one alleging that
molecularly-
those viruses caused the pandemic. What we're alleging is that gain of function research was going on in that lab and NIH funded it.
That is
And-
So that's the thing. He's all Rand Paul is saying is that you've this funded creation of the technology, not the specific disease potential, maybe, but the technology that would allow that disease to be made.
And you know what the problem Fauci has? Not only are there his guys bailing on him like the Washington Post and CNN, but it's not that complicated. See, someone like him relies on, he uses technical terms, descriptions, says you don't understand. That's what he's probably done his whole life. Like anyone questions him is, you don't understand. I'm a doctor. I'm a virologist. I understand viruses. You don't. This is really easy to understand. And even, reporters, idiots, dummies, whatever, talk show hosts understand that Rand Paul, he dumbed it down, made it simple, and made it almost irrefutable. I think this was obviously a terrible day for Fauci, and it's going to get worse because I think people are looking at this going, oh my God, when you lose the Washington Post, when you're a part of the Biden regime and you lose CNN, it isn't going to end well. It's not going to end well for this hack, and that's a good thing. That's a win for the people. I want to mention one other thing on the virus because this went virtually. I didn't hear much about it. I know people are still debating the vaccination for kids, which is insane, but there are schools requiring it, sports requiring it. There are kids who are 13, 14, 15 who have to decide whether I mentioned a friend of mine's kid who's 16 and has to decide whether he wants the vaccine because he wants to go to a school that requires it. It's a big decision for a lot of families. And this kind of went under the radar. But he's a pretty prominent guy. Marty McCary he's the head of the Johns Hopkins guy. He's pretty prominent out there and a critic of generally of Fauci and the Biden regime. But he had a piece in the Wall Street Journal earlier this week. And it didn't get a lot of attention for good reason. And it mentions the number of kids who died last year of COVID, number of children. I believe there's 75 million children under 18 in the country. Yes. Do you know the number who died of COVID of the 75 million kids in the country?
I'm going to guess it's in the hundreds, but you tell me.
Good guess. 335.
Yes.
Do you know how many, according to Marty McCary and his team of researchers, do you know how many of the kids who died did not have a serious pre-existing condition such as leukemia? Do you know how many died? How many kids?
I'm going to guess a dozen. Dozens.
The answer to that, and I'm reading from the Wall Street Journal right now, our report found a mortality rate of 0 among children without a pre-existing medical condition such as leukemia. 0. 75 million kids, 335 dead, 0 without a serious underlying medical condition. I'll say it again, 0.
And you know what
None.
you know what the real sad thing is? That how many kids did the unintended consequences call of the shutdown and all that? I mean,
Great question.
drugs,
I'm going to just
suicide, all
estimate
that.
more than 0.
Yeah, probably
more than 0 kids.
and more than hundreds. Yeah.
Drugs. I mean, do you know how many people died last year of overdoses? 93,000.
Yeah.
Way up. I believe the year before was 70,000. Way up over the previous year. 93,000 died. So the answer is, open the southern border. Let's get more fentanyl in here, and let's lock down again, or let's continue closing schools or masking up children. All the things that led to more alcoholism, more depression, more drug abuse. We haven't had enough in overdoses. So let's just make it all worse. But why would any parent, when they hear that 0 healthy children, 0 died from coronavirus, ever say, boy, we got to get you vaccinated? It's madness.
Never.
But the problem is that the Biden regime decided that they have to get that number up. They got to get more people vaccinated. If it means experimenting on, 6-year-old kids, so be it. There'll be collateral damage if there's any side effects. They're in no danger, as we just pointed out. Even if you looked at the 335 out of 75 million, that's essentially zero. There is no danger to children, and they don't want you to know it. I mean, I ask you, did you hear about that story from
No,
Dr. McCary in the
No.
Wall Street Journal 2 days ago?
no,
2 days ago,
I
in the
didn't.
Wall Street Journal, Marty McCary said their research at Johns Hopkins, their research concluded that no kids died of coronavirus in this country. None, zero, who didn't have serious medical conditions. Why would anyone ever allow this experimental vaccine, not yet FDA approved, to be injected into their child? It's just insane. I would, if my kids were young enough, I'd say you're going to have to go to a different school. You can't play that sport if that's the requirement, because I'm not going to have them experiment on you. Maybe later, maybe down the road when we have more evidence and we have a track record and FDA approval, maybe then, but not now. Why would anyone? I don't get it. But
So many terrible
anyway.
policies have come out of with the idea that it's to protect the children. I mean, it's such a compelling message. We all want to protect the innocent, right, and protect kids. And so I could see why, if the Biden administration really wants to get those numbers up, that's how they would frame it. Let's protect the kids, even if they don't need it.
It's a sad day in America that we're using kids, something that has no effect on them, to make us feel better. Like adults are saying, we've got to vaccinate those kids because maybe they'll get it and give it to me. So our priority is on protecting adults and using children. It's a sad day. It's supposed to be the other way around. We're supposed to be protecting them, looking out for them. We're not supposed to be protecting us at their expense.
No.
But I'm sure we'll go over this again, because the more evidence comes in, the more insane it looks when we say every child must be vaccinated. And people are proudly showing you how they're getting their 12-year-old vaccinated. It's nuts. Anyway, that's something that I saw and said, why isn't this getting more attention? Why aren't people pointing out that Marty McCary has essentially proven that kids are unaffected? But it doesn't serve the purpose. Right now, the goal is to get that number up to 70%. And if it means, vaccinating kids for no reason, they're going to do it. Let's get to Bezos, because I have a couple of questions. Can you hate Bezos and like what he did yesterday? I'll answer that for you. I'm going to say yes.
Yes.
And as I point out many times, I don't care about space. I don't like space, but I like the private sector. I like the fact that this wasn't funded, by some hack in the federal government like Fauci. Is there a space guy like Fauci who's been in the federal government for 50 years? Who spends our money, willy-nilly on his little pet projects? Well, I'm sure Bezos got lots of tax breaks for the land in Texas and for all the construction of his rockets and everything else. But essentially, this thing cost what, 200 million or 250 million or whatever it was?
Yeah. Yes.
Hundreds of millions of dollars. Well, he paid for it, or should I say, we paid for it, because everyone who's an Amazon customer paid for it. And they did it, and it went well, and everyone was happy, and then we'll see what they do next. But I like the idea that Richard Branson and Elon Musk and Bezos are paying for this, and I'm not. Okay? Right. That should make everyone feel good, even if it results in nothing but Jeff Bezos having the best day of his life. But I got a couple of questions for you.
Okay, I'm ready.
How much did this 18-year-old kid pay? I can't find the answer to that. It's a mystery. Someone bid 28 million and then they backed out. He was the next in line. I assume he's 18. I assume dad has some real dough, the Norwegian kid. But how, if they put it to the highest bidder, does an 18-year-old end up on the damn rocket? It just seems, you want to find a spoiled brat? I've spoiled my kids, too much, perhaps, but I can't imagine paying anything to send your kid up in a rocket with Jeff Bezos.
Maybe they don't like their kid and they're just trying to get him get out of their hair for a few minutes.
Had a great time. The kids can, he can brag to his friends in school that he's been in outer space. But here is, Bezos said he had the greatest day of his life. And Bezos is obviously smart. He's obviously accomplished. It's a great story. He was abandoned by his mother. He was adopted. He started the company in his garage 30 years ago. Now he's the richest man in the world. The fact that, Amazon employees, don't get to go to the bathroom, they got to pee in like Gatorade bottles because they can't get a break, or the fact that they're, working like slaves, that's beside the point. He's built this incredible company. But how tone deaf is Jeff Bezos when he says, I want to thank all the Amazon employees who are busting their asses in warehouses and Amazon customers. Without them, this wouldn't be possible. So all the Amazon employees, and some of them are probably happy, but others are just miserable, busting their ass, long hours and hot days. And they're watching this thing for 10 minutes during their, break, their coffee break. And they're seeing this guy say, I couldn't have done this insane thing, decadent thing without you. That was the first thing. He did not come across well in his press conference. I know he was giddy. He got it done. He had that stupid cowboy hat on. But thanking the 1 point whatever million employees he's got, most of whom are probably busting their ass while this guy's, floating around in space, saying, gee, if you didn't work so hard, I couldn't do this, was really tone deaf. And it got the responses I expected from Liz Warren and Bernie Sanders and AOC were all ripping him. But then, I was ready to defend him because anything AOC or Liz Warren says, if they take one side, I take
Like a
the other.
switch,
That's
yes.
my rule.
Right.
Then, and I'm telling you, I've been reading about this like all morning. He announces that he's going to give money to two CNN guys, Van Jones and Chef Jose Andres. He's giving them $100 million each, just giving them. And I'm thinking, the Amazon employee making $18 an hour, working a 12-hour shift in the warehouse in, wherever, in Flagstaff, Arizona. And you're looking up, and Bezos, out of the blue, tells Van Jones, he hugs him and says, I'm going to give you $100 million. And Jose Andres, who I don't even know who that was, is giving him $100 million. And he says, you can do whatever you want with the money. There's no strings attached. He says they can give it all to charity or they can share the wealth. It's up to them. So Van Jones has $100 million. He could buy, a mansion in South Beach. He could buy a big ass yacht. He could do whatever. I mean, he could be like the BLM woman there, Patrice Cullors, and buy mansions in the Bahamas. $100 million, no strings attached. Now, I saw, by the way, the charities that Bezos gives to and his ex-wife gives to. It's all, climate change and, all typical left-wing racial equity stuff. But there's a lot of good charities out there. And they probably, could really, the whatever, the Jimmy Fund or, this ALS, there's Alzheimer's. There's lots of really good charities trying to save lives and solve and cure diseases. And they have to watch while Jeff Bezos says to Van Jones is just a left-wing political commentator. That's all. He's he's not, he's a liberal. He worked for Obama, hated Trump. He said the election in 2016 was a white lash. Everything was about race, typical CNN hack. Well, he might not be at CNN much longer because he has $100 million. This was so bizarre, and I still don't quite get it. I honest to God, I don't quite get it. He just gave them money and assuming they're going to do some good with it. Well, if you're Van Jones, you can do a lot of good with it, but you can also buy you can also live lavishly for the rest of your life. You could buy, a mansion today, a penthouse overlooking Central Park in New York, wherever you want to live. And he could buy a jet. He could buy a Gulfstream. He could do all these things. No rules, no strings attached. He can do whatever he wants. And so could Jose Andres.
You know what this reminds me of is Brewster's Millions. This is like a social experiment. Do you ever watch that movie?
Are we supposed to watch and see what he does with it?
Yeah, it's sort of what is you've got 30 days to spend $30 million, and if you win, you get $300 million. That's kind of what it feels like. But Bezos is probably more tactical than that. Maybe he put some restrictions on, or there's a political reason why he's doing it. I don't know, but it is a very bizarre move.
He says they can do anything they want with it. Anderson Cooper says none of us knew anything about it. He just announced it like live on the air. I'm going to give you 100 million, you 100 million. If he said I'll give you $1 million, I'd say that's pretty bizarre.
Really?
$100 million he's going to give to these two, and I guess Chef Andres is, his big thing is hunger, world hunger, fighting world hunger. So he's going to expect him to do something with that money to solve, to alleviate world hunger, which is fine. Good, do it. But he doesn't have to.
No, he doesn't.
He could buy, yesterday, Conor McGregor bought a $3.6 million Lamborghini yacht.
Saw that, yeah.
So that Van Jones could do that same thing today. And there's nothing anyone could do about it. Just so bizarre. I could think of other people. I mean, think of, some whatever modern day Mother Teresa who's working with orphans and lepers, and you could say, here's 100 million. Instead, you give it to Van Jones.
Yeah, maybe
was Joy Reid not available? I mean, what Van Jones?
I know, set up a foundation or something and put them at the head of the foundation, but at least there'd be some checks and balances on it.
Give him an expense account, like Eric Swalwell. He can go spend his money, he can travel, he can, eat, wine, dine, but honestly, they can do whatever they want. They were surprised. It's the most tone-deaf thing I've ever heard. Again, Bezos is a smart man. He has to be. But didn't he wonder, how this will look? That I have my little plaything, that I go up my little billionaire's little toy. I float around in space for a couple of minutes. I come back. I start handing out $100 million to my friends in the media.
And the problem
How
is
it going to look to the people?
Exactly. It's another situation too, where now Bezos is tying his reputation to these two guys. And if they do something ugly or skeletons start to come out of the closet, that's going to tarnish Bezos, who already has kind of a shaky.
Somebody said this yesterday. I don't know who it was. Someone on Twitter said, you don't get to be the richest man in the world without being an a-hole. I mean, Henry Ford was that way. Most of these guys, Henry Ford was anti-Semitic. Howard Hughes was eccentric and weird and had all kinds of eccentricities. And Bezos, and we've seen other billionaires and how weird they are and how crazy and how tone deaf. I guess you just don't give a damn at some point how it looks. He doesn't give a damn how it looks. I mean, he owns a newspaper that he can use, which is, again, the media wing of the woke mob that does his bidding, that's never going to cover anything he does honestly. And he has a lot of influence with with politicians. And I'm sure he's got a direct line to the Biden White House. He could talk to Kamala Harris anytime he wants. He's just so wealthy and so powerful that he doesn't give a damn if it looks bad, because it looked bad to me. And I don't care about the guy. I don't like him. I respect what he did. But when you do what he did, when you say, hey, thanks to all the Amazon employees, and then you turn around and give $100 million to these media guys, these guys who are essentially CNN contributors, and you say, here's $100 million, have a good time. That is the definition of tone deaf. That is insane. But
so Cooper talks to the two of them. I have a brief cut if you're interested in listening to it.
Sure. I mean, apparently they were surprised too, but let's listen.
Talked to you earlier in the day. You got the call. Was it Saturday?
Yeah, just walking on a path, and the phone rang, and it's Jeff Bezos saying that he felt that we needed to do something to support people who were trying to bring people together across racial lines, political lines, and he wanted to be supportive. And then Lauren, his partner, said, "And we want to give you $100 million to do it." And I literally lost the ability to speak.
You're sort of burying the lead.
Yeah.
When did you find out?
Yeah, around the same time. I mean, a few days ago, and the thing was this: is like, what can we do to try to start investing in how to change the world one plate of food at a time? And he told me, Jose, I want to support you with this money to start finding ways to say that hunger, finally, once and for all, is going to be a problem of the past. We need to be bold, and the moment to be bold is now.
I'm just reading, and there was a video praising Jones for bringing people together for climate justice and racial justice. Van Jones has called himself a communist in the past. Did you know that? I mean, he was the green jobs advisor for Barack Obama, and he's all into this, whatever, climate justice and all that crap, which nobody cares about. I mean, nobody. He also said that he thought the Bush administration might have known about the 9/11 attacks on the World Trade Center before they happened. There's a whole history. I mean, he's a left-wing kook who makes everything about climate and racial justice, or whatever. Everything's about race and climate, and it's just typical, CNN guy. And he gets $100 million to play with. Just so bizarre. Anyway, I wish I had friends like that. And even Jeff Bezos you couldn't have come up with more worthy, more better ways to spend your $200 million after you had your little play ride into space. But anyway, let's finish with another dink. I dealt with Dion Sanders years ago. I know what kind of dink he is. He's the ultimate, self-absorbed, narcissistic, just egomaniac. It's all about him. And I'm not sure if you've followed his career, but I think he does a podcast with Barstool, or he did, and that means everyone at Barstool loves him and talks about what a regular guy. Baloney. He's not a regular guy. He's a fraud. Yesterday, 2 stories break about Dion Sanders, the coach at Jackson State, where he went 4-3 last year. Hired a bunch of ex-NFL guys as coach, got a lot of attention. Didn't have a great year. We'll see how he does. I'm sure he's done great on the recruiting trail. Apparently got some 5-star recruits or 4-star recruits. He walked out of a press conference yesterday. I believe it was yesterday.
Yep.
Because a reporter called him, you ready for this?
Tell me.
Dion.
The horror.
They called him Dion, and I've double checked. I've dealt with him. I did a long one-on-one interview with him once, and I made him cry just talking about his personal life. I'm pretty sure I called him Dion. Well, he says if you're going to call Nick Saban coach, you have to call him coach. I told you he was arrogant. Now he wants to be treated like Nick Saban. But a reporter is supposed to call you Dion. That's your name. Or Mr. Sanders.
Sure.
You're not supposed to call you coach because they don't play for you, you idiot. This comes from a guy. There was a reporter in Tuscaloosa who called Nick Saban Nick, and another reporter, because there's a lot of real, world-class jock sniffers in that world, snapped at the reporter and said, call him coach, show some respect. That's bad, but but we are talking about the greatest coach in college football history. All right. This is Dion Sanders, a guy who just was one game above 500, and he'll get bored and he'll quit probably this year. But he was upset that they called him by his name and walked out of the press conference. That was bad. Now we find out on the same day, I believe, on the same day, they would not let a reporter from the Clarion Ledger down there in Jackson into a press conference because they blocked him. People who work for Dion stopped him from coming to a press conference because the guy reported on a recruit who was expected to plead guilty to a misdemeanor, a domestic violence charge against the highest ranked recruit that Dion's landed, that the team has ever had. The guy's name is Rashad Milligan. Well, the reporter reported that the guy was being charged with this crime. I'm sorry, the reporter is Rashad Milligan. Do I have that right? Yes. Reporter Rashad Milligan blocked by 2 Jackson State officials from covering the press conference because he reported on this recruit named Quadarius Davis, a 4-star wide receiver from Dallas, who was expected to plead guilty of assault that caused bodily injury to a family member.
Right.
A misdemeanor in Texas. So he was reporting on the crime, and Dion ordered the man to be removed or blocked from covering the team. This guy's beyond arrogant. I mean, he's just an a-hole. He's always been an a-hole. I don't care how many podcasts he does with Portnoy. He's still an a-hole. And I hope every reporter just calls him Dion from here on until he loses his mind. They probably won't. They'll probably call him Coach, Sir, whatever. They'll fawn all over him because that's what he wants. But
Coach
it'd
Prime.
be great at prime time. Yeah, call him Prime.
Coach Prime.
What does Portnoy call him in their podcast they do with him? I'm sure it's great. I'm sure it's wonderful, but I've never listened.
No.
They probably call him Prime.
Probably.
But
yeah.
But he wants to be called Coach.
Well, now he does. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. What a dick. What a dick. He's being exposed, which is no surprise because he is such an a-hole. But anyway, we will leave it there. Carano, did I miss anything?
Nope. I think we got it.
All right. We will be following the downfall of Fauci. That's coming soon. I'm predicting he is going to get kicked down the stairs by Biden/Harris any minute now. When they need a scapegoat, the little garden gnome will be waiting out in the hallway for his beating, and it's coming. But we will see how it goes. And we're working on Brandy Love. I told you this. I reached out. She got back to me. She said she's going to try and fit us into her very busy schedule to talk to us about the incident earlier this week or over the weekend when she was kicked out of the Turning Point convention. She said her life went from generally busy to insanely overbooked. So I'm not sure how much time we're going to get, but we're going to try. Carano, I will let you know how that goes, or we'll see.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll talk to Brandy tomorrow.
Anytime she wants.
And, we're DM buddies now. We're
yeah.
I didn't remember that she followed me, and then I saw it and said, "Oh, she's following me," so I DM'd her. She got right
I
back.
told you. I was like, "Hey, you can get in touch with her, DM her," and you did, and she got back, and she likes you, so that's good.
Yes, and I don't know what happened with Minahan and Brandy, but she hates him and he hates her now, and that's too bad because I'm sure Minahan is like even more than me defending her and her right to sit and listen to speeches, as Kirk said. I talked to him yesterday. He said the people kicked her out. They worshipped Donald Trump, and I like Trump. I wish Trump was still president, but Trump. He's been around. He's been with porn stars and strippers, and he's had 3 wives, and he's had 1 million girlfriends, and he is not exactly,
clean.
Mitt Romney in his personal life.
Oh,
but
sure. That
didn't matter to people like Charlie Kirk and most of the people at this convention. Didn't matter to me. I like what he did. I don't, I like the direction the country went under him, and I was capable of putting aside his peccadillos, and but these same people kick her out. They won't even let her listen to speeches because they don't approve of her legal day job. It's just bizarre, but maybe we will get a chance to talk to Brandy about that. We will see, and but we will leave it there for now. I'm Gerry Callahan. This is the Callahan Podcast, and we will talk to you again tomorrow.